And we're live now.
Hi, I'm Lipstar07. I am the guild leader of Dragon's Nest Thievery Company, which is a social / PvE guild. Today we are doing our tanking masterclass. I have with me Morgis, who will be demonstrating Wardens as a tank, and also Pevira, who will be demonstrating Dragonknights. They're the most commonly used classes of tanks in the game. And then I am on my healer right now to help provide support. We are at the final boss of Fungal Grotto 1 on hard mode to help demonstrate the different skills. Morgis, if you want to go ahead and start talking about yours.
As far as the Warden goes, I mean, it does act a lot like the other tanks. As far as passives, they're going to be the same as most other tanks. For the Warden class, though, on the passives, some of the big ones, you've got in like the Animal Companions line, Advanced Species. Now that only increases damage done for each animal companion slotted, but hey, come on. When you need a little bit extra damage, it helps. Flourish, increase your magicka and stamina recovery by 12% if an animal ability is slotted. One thing you're always going to want to run is Bull Netch, so you've always got something slotted. What else we got here? Savage Beast. Whenever you cast an animal companion ability, you generate ultimate. And as you're going to be keeping your Bull Netch up all the time, you're going to be generating ultimate, which you need for Warhorn. Let's see. Under Green Balance, one of my personal favorites is Maturation. When you activate a heal on yourself or an ally, you get minor toughness. On my back bar currently, I run a two-handed sword, and every time you hit rally, you're giving yourself minor toughness for extra health. The Winter's Embrace line, we've got Frozen Armor. Increase your physical and spell resist by 500 whenever you have a Winter's Embrace ability slotted. I carry one of those on each bar just so I can keep my abilities up and handy. And then Piercing Cold, you can use it or not. It increases your magic and frost damage by 6%. Again, a little bit of extra DPS. As far as my skills that I currently run, on my front bar I'm running Silver Leash, Ransack, Gripping Shards, which is from the Ice line, Spiked Bone Shield, which is out of Undaunted, and then my Bull Netch with Warhorn is my ultimate. A lot of people do love to use Razor Caltrops. Personally, I use the Gripping Shards just so I have the Ice ability on a bar. On my back bar, I'm running Subterranean Assault, Executioner from the two-handed sword, Ice Fortress, there's my Ice ability, Rally, which it gives me a small heal, and due to the Maturation passive and the healing line for the Warden, it gives me some more health and resistances. And then Green Lotus, whenever I light or heavy attack, hey, a little bit of extra healing to me. And Healing Thicket, the healing Warden ultimate, which, hey, every now and then you gotta throw some extra healing out there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, other than that, some other passives that are usable and a lot of people like them. We've got Undaunted Command from the Undaunted line. Activating an ally's synergy restores max health, stamina, and magicka. Undaunted Metal, I know a lot of tanks nowadays seem to like running full heavy sets. I still run 5 heavy, 1 medium, 1 light, so I get the extra bonuses from the different armor types. Under, what's this one under? The Fighters Guild line. Generate ultimate when you kill an undead Daedra or werewolf. Come on. We're fighting a lot of undead and Daedra in dungeons these days.
Yep.
So my question was going to be, as far as like your resource pools and your attributes, is it the same for Warden and Dragonknight, or does it not matter with class?
When it comes to that, I think it can also be a lot of personal preference. I know a lot of people stack health. Since I am using some magicka abilities, I do put a little bit of magicka, and then pretty much the rest is, so I got 10 in magicka and the rest is split health and stamina. So, I've more health, but, a better stamina pool. But since stamina is my main, with the changes they made to shards and orbs, you always want to make sure you keep your stamina above magicka, because it's going to, when you activate those synergies, it's going to give you the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to return the resource that you have a higher pool of.
Okay. All right, let's have you go ahead and demonstrate the usage first.
So it's just going to be him going up there?
Yeah, so that way we can cut it into 2 separate parts as needed. And explain what you're doing.
Well, I'm just keeping my shield up, keeping my armor buff going, and yeah, nice little hit from it's AE. But yeah, it's holding a single boss is very easy.
Oops. I got sucked in.
Also, the joys of being an Argonian, when I use a potion, I get a lot of resources back.
So if you needed to do, would you ever be doing crowd control as well as dealing with the boss?
If you're doing an off tank, sometimes, yeah.
Okay. So would you have to do different skills for that? Whoops.
Well, that's where Silver Leash can come into play, or for Warden, the Frozen Device. And one thing about these ice shards I keep dropping, it will root enemies. Little trees there, which help.
Enchanted trees.
If your group starts getting low and they need a little bit of pressure off the healers, trees is very good to just drop down and
yeah, and sometimes
keep your group alive.
Hey, in raids stuff happens, and sometimes the healers drop. And you can always give them a hand.
That's why as a DPS I have a healing skill on mine, just in case.
Now, when it comes to my gear sets, when I'm running the Alkosh jewelry, I'm actually running the.
I died.
I'm running the shield play enchantments, which really help on being able to block, or not using as much stamina when blocking. Situationally, switching gear, one of my other sets, I have all of the infused on the jewelry, and the I forget the name of it, but the potion enchant, so you can use it. In which case, I'm literally drinking potions every 22 seconds.
Are you
Wait.
using any sort of add-ons to help you track that?
No. And with being an Argonian and popping those potions every 22 seconds, you're getting all your resources back. A lot.
Do you use anything like Untaunted or any of those other add-ons to track debuffs? Because I assume you apply debuffs and buffs to the group and the bosses.
I probably should, but I don't as much as other people do. I've been tanking in games for so long. You know, when it comes to those, I just somehow just keep them up. I can't tell you how.
I guess it's just one of those things that can come with practice then.
When it comes to tanking in this game versus other games, is that like pretty much just the same concept?
Well, when it comes to tanking in this game versus other games, one of the big problems that ESO has is there is no AE taunts. You know, all other games, you know, there's AE taunts, single target taunts. That's also one of the things. While you'll see people throw caltrops before they run into a fight, the way aggro, especially area aggro, works in ESO is that whoever does the initial damage will gain more aggro than everybody else. So when people throw that caltrops in there first, they're pretty much guaranteeing themselves getting more aggro than everybody. So it's a little bit more difficult for me because I don't use caltrops, but that's where something like Silver Leash comes in hand.
Okay. Let's see how long you can, how long you can sustain without any of my help. Okay? Like, just off of your own potions and whatnot.
As an Argonian, it's pretty darn easy to go as long as you want. Basically, as long as the tank can keep himself alive, keep aggro on the boss, then hopefully the rest of the group, they'll be able to deal with anything else that comes up. Sometimes it can get hairy, but do what you can do.
Oh, what did you say you're wearing right now?
Right now is Alkosh, Ebon Armor, and Lord Wardens. I have, depending on the situation, I've got things like Imperium, Plague Doctor, Warrior Pup. You know, I mean, do I need more help? Am I giving, more buffs to group? Yeah, do I want to be stingy and keep it all for myself? You know, that kind of thing. Depends on the fight.
And, are you using any food right now?
Tri-stat food.
Okay, it's looking like you're pretty much going to outlive this boss.
I'll admit I have, when in some dungeons when people have died, I have finish the fight from, pretty much the beginning to the end. It takes forever, though.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you're relying on pots because, like you said, you're an Argonian. How long would you survive then if you happen to be a different race and you didn't get the extra resource boost back from using all of
Probably
your
not
pots?
as long. Or I might have to play differently.
So if you stopped using pots right now, let's see how long you'd get by without pots
I
and
missed
our
the
help.
clock. Well, then I'd probably try to get out of that red instead of standing in stupid.
Okay, so yeah, you'd have to rely a bit more on skill.
Yeah, right now I'm just sort of standing here taking everything.
Okay. Let's reset and then we can go over Dragonknight with Pevira. Because we don't need to kill him yet.
Alright, let's reset him.
Oi.
Chase us across the river. And there he goes.
Alright.
He reset.
Yep.
Yep.
Now let's reread the scroll. Can you take off Eben real quick? So I can see my stats without it. The buff. So one of the cool things about Eben Armory that Morgis was wearing, it provides a group-wide buff to your group members' health. Adds like 1.5k or something like that after passives and all that to up to 12 group members. And so it's really good for a tank to run that because it helps the group stay alive a little bit. But Dragonknight, so I like tanking with the Dragonknight, and normally I run sword and shield front bar, and I use a destruction staff back bar, either an ice staff or a lightning staff, depending on what we need. And I'll talk about that in a bit. But passives for Dragonknights, the main ones are Draconic Power and Earthen Heart skill lines. Draconic Power, you have Iron Skin, which increases the amount of damage you block by 10%. You have Burning Heart. While I have a Draconic Power ability is active, my healing received is increased by 12%. Then Elder Dragon increases my health recovery by a bit, and Scaled Armor increases my spell resist. Then Earthen Heart, you have the big one there is Battle Roar. So whenever you cast an ultimate ability, you restore 52 health, 46 magic, and 46 stamina for each point of the ultimate's cost. So when you're using something like Warhorn, which costs 250, that's a huge chunk of resources you get back right there. And that just comes in and you're good to go. And while you build up ultimate, you're banking up even more resources there to use in the future. And then just more utility ones that are nice. In Earthen Heart, you've got Mountain's Blessing, which whenever I cast an Earthen Heart ability, like the big one Earthen Heart ability that I use is Igneous Shield. That on use that. And that just gives a little shield to a couple of group members. Helps you not die. Whenever you do that, your group gains Minor Brutality, which increases their weapon damage. And you also generate a little bit of ultimate whenever you use it. And then when you also use them, Helping Hands gives you back about 1,000 stamina. So you're sitting there. When tanking, when you're holding block, you don't regenerate stamina. Your stamina regeneration is just disabled, and you have to get your stamina from other sources. Like with the Warden, sometimes they'll run the Netch to get them stamina back. As a Dragonknight, you have Earthen Heart abilities and your Battle Roar from using your ultimate. As far as skills on my bar, I frequently change out a few of them. But what I have right now is Green Dragon Blood, which is your main self heal. It's a heal. You heal for 37% of your missing health, and you also gain recovery buffs for like 20 seconds. So you hit that, you get low, and you hit that and get resources back, get your health back. Then you have your taunt. You have a low slash to help the boss do less damage. And then I actually run an ability called Balance. It's from the Mages Guild. I run a lot of support magic abilities that take magicka. So you use this, you trade some of your health for magicka.
Oh, kitty.
And the one thing about that is you need to know when you can use it and when not to. Because like when you do, it reduces your own healing, but a healer will still be able to heal you for full strength. So if you're at a place where you need to be healing yourself, it's probably not good to use that because you'll end up not being able to recover. On my back bar, which I use a frost staff or a lightning staff on, I run Engulfing Flames, which is an ability. It does an AoE blast of fire in front of you, which increases the enemies. They take 9% more damage from all fire damage attacks. So like all of your magicka DPS in your group that you have, like especially in trials when you have a bunch of magicka users that are using flame staffs, that's really boosts their damage by a lot. And then I have an ability called Choking Talons, which roots all the enemies in place. It's kind of like gripping shards from the Warden, but like you go in, you cast it, and they can't move for a bit. And as well, you have a ranged taunt on the back, just then from Undaunted. And I use wall of elements with a staff, so that the ice one helps keep them in place. A shock one, if you need to, it'll help proc off balance on the boss, which makes your group do more damage to it for a short period of time. It's just there to provide more support. And lastly, I have a skill. Dragon Knights have a skill, like most tanks, they'll need to use like Silver Leash or like Frozen Gate or something. But Dragon Knights have probably the easiest to use pull. Let me just switch back over to that other staff. And I'll just show it now. It shoots out a chain and pulls enemies to you. But yeah, that's pretty much it for skills.
Can you demonstrate that that pull again with that?
Just sit there, just
Okay.
pull enemies to you.
I don't know if you can see that, Miko, since you're on the other side of where he's standing.
Can you see it?
I just saw it, yeah.
Okay. Something I forgot to ask. Is there any difference, like with your CP in between the classes, and do you change out your CP often between fights?
In vet trials, I do. Like, if you're doing a vet trial, then you want to be able to specialize on what are you going to be doing for damage, or like what type of damage you're going to be taking. Like, if you look at like something like Asylum, you're going to be taking a lot of magic damage from the main boss as the tank, versus other ones where you might be taking more physical damage. But then for like most content, you don't need to worry about that. Like you can if you really need help, and like say like a veteran dungeon, then you can go ahead and switch out some CP for the fight. But for the most part, you can rely on your skills and other things just to keep you alive for most of it. So like right now, my stamina is almost out. I'm at about... Yeah, let me just go back down again. Just spam it. So right now, my stamina's at like 2,000. I go ahead and I pop my war horn, and that gives me about 14,000 back.
Damn.
So it's just like I don't need to be like I'm a Imperial,
Mm-hmm.
so I have more max stats, but I don't get as much back for my potions. But with the Battle Royal passive, you can pull it off more, where you don't need it. And then just look for more places to do a heavy attack to keep your stamina full.
Are you wanting to rely on heavy attacks just because they do take a while to go off? Or do you want to use synergies from your healers or pots?
And it depends. I mean, I'm fine with doing a heavy attack every once in a while. It helps at the start when you don't know a fight. Doing a heavy attack can be risky. Cause like, what if I was doing a heavy attack during that and that circle came up, and then I was dead?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, if you've done the fight enough, you start to know, okay, you just did that. I can go ahead and do a heavy attack there while he does that move and pull someone to him. And you can shield that to reduce the damage a little bit, help protect your group members. It just comes like you start to get to the feel of what happened when.
Now, when I put that barrier on you, how much are you aware of like how much it was able to stop? Like how much
I
damage?
did not see that.
Okay.
Yeah, still, one of the things I like about, I mean, both Dragon Knights and Wardens are really good at rebuilding ult. Dragon Knight not as much as a Warden, but like, all I need to do to get my resources completely back to full is pop an ultimate and a potion at the same time, and I'm completely 100% full, even if I'm empty.
Now, do you use any kind of add-ons for your tanking anyway?
Yes, I do use Untaunted. That just basically adds a little bar to your screen that shows you, okay, this is how long it does. It gives a countdown, 15 to 0, and says, okay, this is how much longer you have on this boss, like for it to be taunted. And so it's really helpful when there's boss fights where you have to tank multiple things at once, or even like ad pulls where there's lots of them. And see, I also have a range taunt, so I can use that to initiate a fight.
I suppose a range taunt would make it easier to drag him around if you wanted to pull him somewhere else instead of trying to do something like puncture.
Yeah, like run up, puncture him, pull him. Versus like if he's like that and you want to reposition him after, you just range taunt to make sure he's there, pull him over. Okay, I mean, I could last pretty long here too on my own. So if we want to just reset, then we can talk more about like the gear that we can use and like when you might want to use what.
Okay.
So we're resetting.
Okay. Yeah, let's reset.
We're gonna try to anyway. He's kind of in the way.
There he goes. Okay. Okay, so as for what gear I was wearing in there, I was also wearing Alkosh. Okay, you got the armor passives there. So in the tanking channel, I'm going to post the gear I'm wearing. There's Alkosh. And then I was wearing Torg's Pact. Mine is really optimized for like trial setup where you want to be able to make your DPS do as much damage as possible. So Alkosh, it's a medium armor set that drops from Mav
Oh.
Lorkaj trial. So on that one, with it being medium armor, you usually want to tank in heavy armor. You want to wear it on your weapons and jewels. And with that, basically the 5-piece, it's whenever you go ahead and activate a synergy, so like from like shards or orbs or a blood altar, it does a little bit of damage and some damage over time. But the big thing is it reduces the enemy's physical and spell resistance by about 3,000 for 10 seconds. And so that's a huge chunk that it does. And that makes it so your team can do a good chunk of damage. The maximum amount of, just for reference, the maximum amount of resistances anyone can have is about 32,000. And usually trial and dungeon bosses will have that much. And so about 3,000, that's a little bit less than 10% of additional damage that your group can do with that set on. And then Torix Pact, that increases 5 pieces. That decreases your weapon enchantment cooldown and increases the amount it affects by 30%. So with that, I run. Let me get a screenshot of this. Of my Alkosh Ice Staff. You put on a Crusher enchant that reduces your target spell resistance and all that. So I don't know the exact math, but normally it does 2,700. That's with it being infused, so that increases the effectiveness of that. And then the Torix Pact also makes it even more effective. So basically you can have that buff up 100% of the time if you're running Torix Pact and infused, and it reduces it by even more. And then my monster set I was wearing there was Blood Spawn, which you use just for the main passive buff. Which you have a chance when you take damage to generate 14 ultimate and increase your spell and physical resistances by 6,400.
Do you ever swap out your monster set?
Yes. So the other main one I use, Lord Warden. This one's good in fights where you're not having to move around. Your group can stand there because it gives a decently sized circle. It boosts your resistances by about 4,000. And your allies standing in it are affected by that as well as the one piece adds 3,000 resistances. So it gives a little bit more resistances than Bloodspawn, but Bloodspawn gives the ultimate generation. And with wearing heavy armor, I'm already close enough to the cap for resistances. Like either of those proccing will put me over my spell resist cap and put me very close to the physical resistance cap of 32,000. So anything over that is kind of a waste and doesn't help you stay alive anymore. So it's better to have other sets elsewhere with those.
Whereabouts do you want your health as a tank?
And that depends on the content. But generally you want to shoot for 35 to 40,000 health. Some of the harder fights you might want more, where you're like, okay, I'll need to be able to take a bunch of heavy hits. Like if you think about it, Veteran Hellraw, the warrior, the final boss, his 1,000 cuts move does a lot of damage over a short amount of time. And if you're not on top of it, you have to be on top of it all the time anyways. But the lower your health is there, the less of a cushion you have. So everyone's different. Like what they find out what works for them. Like me personally, I'm an Imperial, so I get more health from my passives. That's going to change with the next update when they change the passives a bit. But right now, I have 35,400 health, 22k magic stamina, and about 21k magicka. So, like Morgis said, you want a little bit more stamina than magicka for tanking, just so your orbs and shards will restore to the stamina pool. And as far also for stats, to get my stats that high on all my gear, I have tri-stat enchantments, which give magicka, health, and stamina versus just one of the stats. So it's a little bit less per each, but then it helps all your resource pools. And I like having the big max stats. My rings, I've transmuted to Triune. Give a screenshot of that. This is my general setup. Triune acts like a tri-stat enchant, but it's your jewelry. And then my necklace, I actually really like running Harmony. Some of the people I know, they'll run 2 or 3 Harmony, so they get more restore from synergies. So anytime you use a synergy with Harmony, it boosts it by 30%. And so, like shards, if your healer throws you shards or orbs, you pop those, you'll get 30% more stamina back.
Nice.
Now, you were saying that you would prefer 35 to 40k in health. I know I've seen tanks before have 50k health or more. Why would you not want your health to be that high? Or why would that be less advisable than the range that you were giving?
I mean, because if you're getting your health that high, like let me swap some gear real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and put on Eben and Plague Doctors. If I wanted to, I could just swap gear. And that puts me up to 51k health, wearing just different gear for my other setup. But with that, my resistances are lower. And it's just, they provide different bonuses. Like, if you need to stay alive, even Plague Doctor is really good because it gives you the health, healing taken. Like, the only bonuses you get, Eben gives max health, healing taken, and the group max health. Plague Doctor gives max health, healing taken, and a huge burst of maximum health. Like, the 5-piece gives 4,000 for Plague Doctors. And so, like, if you need to stay alive and you need that health, you can. But generally, a tank with lower health, you'll have lower health because you're running units that are more geared toward group support, like the Alkosh and the Alkosh and Torix Pact give lower amounts of health, but they give bonuses that are helpful to your team. So, like, if I'm doing like a new dungeon, then I'll want to try doing it with the more health so I can stay alive bigger. My shield scale with my max health. Your self heal will scale with that max health. And like you can see, you can do a lot more of this move where you trade health for health for magicka. So it just depends on the fight. I like doing it lower because I feel like for most content that I've done already, I feel like I can understand it fairly well enough to go ahead and get by with lower health. Versus if I was to do something new, like I had a friend say, "Hey, do you want to come just tank Veteran Cloud Rest +3?" One, I would no clue what I'm doing there. I haven't done it. I'd be like, "Oh, I probably want more health so I don't get hit as hard or die as easily to those big hits that Trials bosses can do." A lot of times you also see PvP tanks have more health, and they'll just be unkillable with that much health. And it's like, okay, if you're doing 1v1, you're like, I'm just gonna run away from you because I'm not ever gonna kill you with that much health. Even with like a full Nightblade combo put perfectly, you're still not going to get through 50k health.
All right.
Oh, I'm just gonna throw this one out here. One of the other sets that I use upon occasion, um, especially in fights where we have lots of melee and there's lots of AoEs or cleaves or whatever coming from the boss. I do use Imperium upon occasion because the 5-piece, um, every 8 seconds when you're getting hit, you have a 10% chance to put out a pretty good sized damage shield to people within 8 meters.
That's one of the sets that I still want to get. I'm still gathering pieces for it. But like that can make the difference. You put out that huge damage shield.
Yeah,
Then
I'm looking at it here. It's 10% chance to grant your allies within 8 meters a damage shield that absorbs, just at least on mine here, it says 11,620 damage for 6 seconds every 15 seconds. So, yeah, I mean, you can put out a good, group support with that to help your poor melee friends, because I know this game and some other games in the past have not been melee friendly in trial and raid situations.
and one of
So
the
what
other
you say is the most important thing? If somebody's just starting out as a tank and they've never done it before in other games or in here, what's the most important thing that somebody would need to keep in mind? Like the skills that they want, or the gear, maybe what's the easiest thing for them to get, that sort of thing.
As far as the gear, what's easiest to get? I mean, you've got crafted sets. Torgs is crafted. Things like Plague Doctor, Warrior Poet, those can be purchased off of guild traders. Things like Eben, that's going to come from a dungeon drop. Imperium, that's, again, a DLC dungeon drop. Alkosh, as we said before, was Mauve Kosh. I mean, that's a trial. So if they can get some of the crafted or, zone drops that they can purchase off guild traders, gear-wise, that's the easiest place to start.
one of the combos I recommend is Torgs and Plague Doctor. You have a lot of health, gets good at resist, and you still provide some of the utility. Plus, it's crafted, and so it's a good place to start. And like you can do it, you can tank anything you want in that gear, and it'll get you through. Like I still have mine, and I still pull it out time to time when I need it.
Biggest
Yeah.
thing I could tell, someone new that's starting into the tanking, you know, at first, you're gonna die because you're not gonna know the fights. But, just pay attention and watch what's going on, and once you learn the fights, you could. I'll put it to you this way: I could tank Hellraw, which I have, in straight white gear because I know the fights. I mean, knowledge is the biggest thing that you need.
So, would you think it would be easiest for them to pug, or maybe to join a guild and get friends and learn the dungeons that way?
The way I started my tank, this was actually one of the first characters I got maxed out the level on. And the way I did it, the normal ways you level a character if you're going to level a tank are kind of hard. Like you can't do quests or go fight world bosses. That's too much. So he's not a tank because you don't do much damage. But if you just the way I did it a lot is I just did random dungeon after random dungeon, even on normal. It's like a newer player that really helped me see. Okay, these are the kind of things that happen. Now when you take this step to vet, it does get harder and there's more mechanics, but you already know half the fight, so you just need to learn real quick what happens when. I mean, you'll die, but even just paying attention, like even as a DPS, if you wanted to learn how to tank and you're just doing a dungeon, just watch your tank and watch some of the things that they do. Like as a DPS, you're watching out for different mechanics, like don't stand on the red. Sometimes as a tank, you might need to stand in the red, and you can just watch why they do what they do, and always just ask questions because I mean we're all learning this game together. Like anytime a new patch comes out with new dungeons or a new trial or whatever, everyone's going to be learning the same thing and like, okay, what do we have to do to get through this? What can we see? What do we need to do?
All right, I think that was very informative. I have like a little beginner tank that I don't use her much because, I mean, like you said, she doesn't do much damage, so I don't really like it that much. I don't know. I can't think of any other questions that I or anyone else might want to know. How about you, Miko?
Um, it pretty much covered that for me, anyways. Like, I kind of knew some of the stuff, but like I don't really plan on tanking in the future. I love myself some DPS, just going through a bunch of stuff, killing everything I see. That's how I roll.
Oh, so something I thought of. If you're in a trial and you're not, the only tank, you've got one or two other tanks, depending on what kind of trial it is. How do you guys do you guys have to work amongst yourself, like gear and skills, or are you able to just, you go in however you want?
Well, I mean, you definitely want to talk about, amongst yourselves there, what gear's wearing, because Eben won't stack if two tanks are wearing Eben, it doesn't stack. Like right now, we're both sitting here wearing Alkosh. That debuff that it grants doesn't stack. So I mean, yeah, you do have to communicate to figure out who's wearing what.
Well, but isn't it also under your like character menu? Like, if someone's wearing something, like I know it, like if someone was wearing Ebon, it would show up under your character sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
you
it
can
works
see
for
the
some of them.
balls, but
the
Like
Alkash
one
isn't
of the
showing
things
up
I like
though.
to compare it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I said the Alkash isn't showing up on the character sheet though. You said you're both wearing it right now, right?
yeah,
You
you
can
see
see
the
it.
blue glow. But if I switch my costumes to weapons and shields that have an effect, you will not see that blue glow. So, I don't know if the other guy's wearing it or not.
Uh,
Like one of the things I like to compare it to, like looking at like healer gear. So I also have a healer. Like, what if you go into a trial and sitting there and you're both don't have any effects on you? You could both be wearing like Olarime and Jorvolds or something, or Mending Mage and Jorvolds or something. And in that case, it'll be like you need to figure out like, oh, what you wearing, so that you're not giving out the same buffs because you want to provide as much utility to the group as possible. Like as in a trial, if you look at like the main guy holding the boss, he might be wanting to wear like Torix Alkosh. And then if you have another off tank who's like gathering ads together, hold some of the miniature ads, whatever, then maybe since he's moving around, he can wear Eben and something else that he would want to choose. In that case, he can still provide utility without having to be sitting there on the boss, constantly putting down his effects to proc those sets.
And just to demonstrate, if you're using other gear that has effects, so you won't see the Alkosh. I switched to this costume. I'm still wearing Alkosh, but you can't tell by looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're not glowing anymore.
I can't remember. Did we ever discuss what Mundus stone you guys would use?
Nope.
Yeah, so currently I am using the Lady spell and physical resistance.
And do you ever change that out for other fights, or do you generally just stick with the lady?
Personally, I usually stick with that one.
Okay, it looks like Pev is AFK.
Oh, was I just muted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Oops, I don't know how I did that. I'm running the Atronarch. So that's magic recovery. That gives like 130 magic recovery. Sometimes I might change it to the Lord for more max health. That's like 1,000, 1,500, something like that. Total max health, and it doesn't make too much of a difference versus magic recovery. I like because of all the magic abilities I use on my back bar.
Are you still there?
Can you hear me?
I saw you mute briefly, but then the last thing I heard was something about Magica on your back bar.
Oh. Yeah, I use magic abilities on my back bar. The extra magic recovery I like you being able to use those and more and not have to worry about, oh, I don't have magicka to use that. Because of
Okay.
staff heavy attack, they feel so slow to do if you need the resources back. I mean, you can, but it's much easier to just regenerate passively over time. So
You can go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, on my jewelry, I use the magic recovery enchant, one magic recovery enchant, and then just two shield play, which reduces the cost of block enchants. So I'm sitting at, when I pop a potion, which I'll do it every time it's on cooldown usually, my magic recovery is at 1,400. So that combined with an occasional balance will keep me topped off, so I can just use my magic abilities whenever they're up, whenever I need to put another one down. As well as your main heal is a Dragon Knight, Dragon's Blood. Fairly expensive. It costs 4.2k magicka. So you always need magicka for that.
One thing that I did want to bring up with one of the upcoming changes, it used to be a thing of most tanks would run sword and shield on both bars, and now, you've seen here, I'm running a two-hander, he's running a staff. One of the changes they're about to make is with the crusher the enchants in general, but using crusher to keep penetration on the mobs. The one-handed is only going to do half of what it does now, so hence the reason people are using two-handers of some form or fashion on the back bars these days, just to keep the armor penetration up.
So it's not wise to have a dual wield on your second bar for a tank.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually dual wield is what I used to do, and I switched to two-hander, and now I'm actually leveling Destro staff to start using an ice staff, because you can throw down elemental blockade, and it's ticking away on the mobs as well.
Yeah, with Elemental Blockade, the enchantment pretty much has 100% uptime. As soon as it comes off cooldown, has a very high chance of proccing off that. And you can just throw it down on the back bar, forget about it while it's up. And then if you have an add-on that tracks your cooldowns, you can keep in mind, oh, it's about to expire. I have a second left of it. I'll go and refresh it. Swap back. Because even with like a two-hand or like dual wield or ice staff back, you most of the time you'll still want to be blocking on your shield, sword and shield bar, just because that you can block the most damage from that bar. There's been times when I've bar swapped at the wrong time, and it's only for like a half second, quarter second, but it drops block. Like you'll see the shield disappear when I swap, even though I'm still holding block. And at that time, if the right attack comes through at that time, you can just die.
Yeah, it's only for like
Yeah.
a split second too.
Yeah.
Now, also with like the benefit more of the staff over the two-handed sword, the ancient knowledge passive for destruction staff, equipping a frost staff, which most people are used because the heavy attack is also a taunt. Equipping a frost staff reduces the cost of blocking by 18% and increases the amount of damage you block by 10%. Now, as I said, I'm still leveling it. That's only at level 1, not at 2, so those numbers will probably go up.
Yeah. At level 2, at their 36% cost reduction, and you can increase the amount you block by 20%. One of the things though with a frost staff is like normally you think, oh yeah, it taunts. But me personally, I choose that's from the first passive gesture staff, Trifocus, and I actually choose not to use it. The passive for frost staff for that is fully charged frost heavy attacks, taunt the enemy to attack you and grant you a small little 1,400 health damage shield. But it also, your blocking costs magicka and instead of stamina. So if you have that passive, you're spending magicka to block on that bar instead. And personally, I feel like just not having the heavy attack taunt worth just using my stamina to block on that bar, so I can use my magicka skills for utility instead of blocking. But some people like using that passive to block. They'll be like, oh, I'm low on stamina for a bit, and my potion's about to be off cooldown. I'm going to go to my back bar and use my magicka to block for a bit. And I'll pop my potion, whatever, and I'll be good to go and block more on the front bar.
So I know, like with DPS, the advice is generally to use divines and infuse traits on their armor. What should tanks be doing?
The majority, I would probably say, sturdy, and increase block cost. Some people like all sturdy. I personally do sturdy on 4 pieces, and put infused on head, legs, and chest, and then put tri-stat enchants on those. That's just what I do. Everybody's different.
Try
Like,
stats
I-
on everything. Try stats
What was
on
that?
everything.
No,
I
use
do tri-stats on
tri-stats. Yeah, some people do that. I do it on the big 3: the chest, the legs, the helm, and then I put health on the others.
So is
Yeah.
it more beneficial for a tank to use sturdy instead of reinforced? Because that's supposed to obviously give you more protection.
So, I mean, for me on that, right now I'm running a reinforced medium head, just because that'll get me to. I'm running a reinforced medium head, 2 infused. My other 2 big pieces are infused, and then 4 sturdy, and that for me personally puts me at the physical resist cap, fully buffed up. Puts me a little bit over the spell resist, but also puts me at physical resist. So generally sturdy, you want to have as much block cost because again, you're not regenerating stamina while blocking. Like I'm sitting here, and you don't get any stamina back from doing that. You have to get that through other ways, so that you can keep block up. Because block gives, I think it's like 50% around damage reduction. It comes out to more when you take into like passives and all that, something like that. But if you're not able to block, then you've got to mitigate the damage some other way, or you're going to end up dying. And so, like, I'm not regenerating stamina. I let go, I start regenerating stamina.
Yeah, and in some fights, if you do not block, you're dead. I mean, so you've got to. I mean, you've got to block. You need to have those reduction in costs to block things, whether they're abilities, enchants, runes, passives, traits, whatever.
Okay.
Your armor, you now have none. If you don't block, you are dead.
So I'd say that's probably the more important thing to remember, because as DPS and as healer, I mean, yeah, I do have to block, but I don't really worry about it as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's only sometimes you'll need to block as them, because the tank will have aggro and he'll be taking most of the damage for you. As a tank, you've got all the hard-hitting moves pretty much targeting you, because you have the taunt. So if you lose the taunt or you die, then that big boss starts chasing around your little squishy DPS with 14, 15, 16k health. And he's so much that looks at them and they might fall over dead. As long as you can keep block up, then and taunt up, block and taunt. If you're gonna do anything, if you're gonna learn anything from tanking, it's block and taunts.
Yep, definitely agree with that.
Everything else you just add on top of it once you get those down. Resource management, utility, positioning, and all that.
Okay. Now, I think that's all, because now I can't think of any other questions. So thanks for taking the time to come and explain and show things to us, and hopefully other people find this as helpful and informative as I did.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Tanking is very fun.
Alright, well, eventually we'll probably end up doing another master class sometime shortly. I don't know exactly on what, maybe healing. Everyone's just dying in front of me.
Apparently DPS is best.
I guess so. Alright, well, this has been Mikotak and Friends, with another DNTC masterclass. Hit that follow button, so you know when we're back up on, and take it easy. Peace. That was good. Well, before I say actually anything, does there anyone want to say anything else before I end the stream?
Nope. I think we're all good.
All right.
We'll be doing master classes every month on different subjects.
All right. You heard it right from the Guildmaster. For all you who's watching, have a good rest of your day. Peace.